I've gone from earning £1,000 a week to some weeks zilch, so it's majorly impacted.
Lydia's been a sex worker for 8 years. Over lockdown, with income drastically dropping, she's taken risks to provide for her 4 children.
That's what puts food in their bellies, a roof over their heads. I took a booking which put me in a really dangerous situation. It's not a booking I would normally have taken, but because of COVID and things being closed, you kind of just do what you can to bring money in. I wanted to leave, I was locked in the car and grabbed by the throat.
Like Lydia, Lucy wants her identity protected. She says the stigma forces sex work into the shadows. She recently moved on after working in the industry for 5 years.
I think people either want sex workers to be empowered and loving their jobs, or they want them to be downtrodden and in need of rescue. And the reality is that people are just trying to make a living. I was kind of neutral on it, enjoyed certain aspects of it. There were pros and cons to the job, as there are with any job.
Anastasia runs a group which offered emergency support over lockdown, including crowd-funded crisis grants, online chats and a 24-hour helpline.
When social distancing measures came into place, of course sex workers couldn't work, and then full lockdown happened and sex workers felt that they were left without work, they were facing a financial stress and burden, but also they couldn't access support services and safety nets. Many of them can't register as self-employed and can't access the benefit system.
The Scottish Government is consulting on how to challenge men's demand and help women leave the industry. It's looking at policies in other countries, including the so-called Nordic model, which makes it illegal to buy sex.
That's the approach that they've taken in Sweden, they've taken that approach in France, in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, so lots of countries have taken that approach. So we, clearly in Scotland, we're going to look at examples of best practice, but the consultation itself does not commit us to a course of action. Often there's a missing voice. So quite often we hear from people who want to talk about it as being an empowering career choice. I don't necessarily take that view. It's harmful to those that are involved in it, and it's not a choice generally that is freely made. And I think it's time that we start to talk about that.
Meanwhile, Lydia and Lucy are adding their voices to calls for full decriminalisation of sex work.
We're all labelled as sex workers, but there's so many different umbrellas to that. Not all the women are in it because they're exploited into it. Don't tar everyone with the same brush.
Criminalising drugs doesn't make them go away. There's still a huge market for them. Criminalising abortions don't make them go away. Any form of criminalisation always ends up in more violence and more harm towards sex workers.
It's often described as the world's oldest profession, but the debate and stigma around the sex industry endures. Kate Nicholson, STV News.